Hello, this is John Michael Goudelet. This is July the 11th, 2026, and we're doing a presentation on Elijah, Elisha, and Jehu. Right here, what I'm about to read, the reason why I'm doing this is because God is going to call these three prophets to I would say get rid of all the evil kings like Ahab, Jezebel, and Ahab's son, Ahab's grandson. They're going to be doing some anointing here with oil. It just so happens that when God anoints a prophet to anoint another prophet, everything just seems to come to pass as God wills it. And right now it's going to be God versus the false evil prophets and the false kings and the false queen Jezebel. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. He's telling Prophet Elijah here, you must go and anoint Hazael as king of Aram. Okay, so King Hazael is going to be the king of Aram, pretty much Syria, and he is a very brutal king, man. He is brutal, and God's going to use him to straighten out northern Israel because they're apparently they're kind of messing up. So he's going to use King Hazael to straighten out the northern Israel. And he also wants Elijah to anoint Jehu, son of Nimshi, as king of Israel. So Jehu's going to be the king of Israel. And then he wants to anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, of Abel Meholah, as prophet to succeed Elijah. Anyone who escapes the sword of Hazael will be put to death by Jehu, and anyone who escapes the sword of Jehu will be put to death by Elisha. But I shall spare 7,000 in Israel, all the knees that have not bent before Baal, all the mouths that have not kissed him. So these three, I believe that Elisha goes up in a chariot of fire into heaven, and he gives Elisha a double portion. So this is when God calls Elisha, and Elisha goes as anoints Elisha. Elijah anoints Elisha, gives him his cloak, and he gets a double portion of spiritual, prophetic miracles. He's anointed with a double portion. So Elisha, the prophet, is recorded as having performed 32 miracles. This is Elisha, received a double portion of the prophetic spirit of his predecessor Elijah, who performed 16 miracles. So Elijah performed 16 miracles. Elisha performs 32 miracles. I counted them. I counted all of Elijah's miracles, and the fire that they do on the sacrifice of the altar and the killing of the 850 false prophets of Baal and Astarte or Asherah, 400 false prophets that sit at the seat of Jezebel's table. I counted those two, and it came out to be about 16. So the 32, the prophet Elisha performed 32 miracles, recorded miracles in the Old Testament, perfectly demonstrating the double portion of Elijah's spirit he requested. So, while some scholars differ on exact classifications, these miracles are deeply embedded in the biblical narrative and primarily span across 2 Kings. Here is the traditional list of the 32 miracles of Elisha, characterized by biblical event. The early miracles of 2 Kings, parting of the Jordan. Elisha struck the Jordan with Elijah's mantle and the waters divided. Number 2, purification of the waters at Jericho. He threw salt into the spring, permanently healing the bitter waters. Third, the judgment of the mockers. Elisha cursed a group of mocking youths, resulting in 2 bears coming from the woods to attack them. Miracles 4, water in the desert. God miraculously filled dry ditches with water to save the armies of Israel, Judah, and Edom. 2 Kings 2:16-20. The 5th one is the deception of blood. He caused the morning sun reflecting on the water to appear as blood to the Moabites, leading to their defeat. Revealing Syrian war plans. Elisha supernaturally uncovered the Syrian king's secret military strategies. Number 7, vision of the chariots of fire. At Elijah's prayer, God opened his servant's spiritual eyes to see an army of horses and chariots protecting them. Binding the Syrian army, he prayed and struck the attacking Syrian troops with temporary blindness. Restoring sight, Elijah prayed to restore the sight of the blind Syrian soldiers. Number 10, multiplying oil. The widow's small jar of oil miraculously multiplied, filling numerous borrowed jars so she could pay her debts. Back in those days, they would take your kids as slaves if you owed debts to anybody. They would always take your sons. I don't know about the daughters, but right here she had 2 sons, and they were going to take her 2 sons if she didn't pay her debt. So the widow's small jar of oil miraculously multiplied, filling numerous borrowed jars so she could pay her debt. The Shumanites' barrenness healed. Elisha prophesied and secured the birth of a son to a wealthy Shunammite woman who had no children. Number 12, resurrection of the Shunammite's son. After the boy died, Elisha prayed and stretched himself over the child, bringing him back to life. Purifying the poisoned stew, he neutralized a toxic pot of wild boar during a famine by throwing meal into it. Feeding 100 men with 20 loaves, he multiplied a small offering of bread and grain to feed 100 men with food left over. Floating iron axe head, he made a heavy iron axe head float on the surface of the Jordan River so it could be recovered. The healing of Naaman's leprosy healed. Elijah's instruction Naaman, the Syrian commander, to wash in the Jordan 7 times, which cured his leprosy. Transferring leprosy, he transferred Naaman's leprosy to his own disciple servant Gehazi. Prophecy of the famine's end, he prophesied an abrupt end to a devastating siege and famine in Samaria. his scornful officer's death, he prophesied that the skeptical royal officer who doubted his previous word would see the food but not eat it. The officer meets his fate. An unbelieving officer was trampled to death at the city gate as a prophecy dictated. 4 lepers bring deliverance. Elisha's prophecy, the fight of the Syrian army, which was realized when 4 lepers discovered their abandoned camp. Resurrection of the Shunammite son, second record, the retelling of the boy's revival. Prophecy of the famine in Samaria, he warned the Shunammite woman of a coming 7-year famine. Prophecy of Ben-Hadad's death, prophesied that the king of Syria would die of his illness. Prophecy of Hazael's reign, he wept as he foretold that Hazael would become the next cruel king of Syria. Anointing of Jehu, Elisha sent a prophet to secretly anoint Jehu as the new king of Israel. It was a reading that Elijah had anointed Jehu, and now it says that Elisha sent a prophet secretly to anoint Jehu as the new king of Israel. Jehoash, prophetic victory, arrows. On his deathbed, Elisha commanded the king of Israel to shoot arrows out of the window as a sign of victory over Aram. The king's hesitation, he prophesied that because King Jehoash only struck the ground 3 times with the arrows, he would only defeat Syria thrice. Prophecy of Jehoash's victories, he accurately declared the king would defeat Ben-Hadad 3 times. Elisha's death. Elisha died and was buried, including his earthly ministry. The resurrection by Elisha's bones. A dead man's body was thrown into Elisha's grave. Upon touching the prophet's bones, the man revived and stood up. So those are 32 miracles of Elisha, a double portion that he got from the cloak, or the belief, the faith. They say the cloak carried power from Elijah, and then his belief and his faith in God, 32 miracles that Elisha had done. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this one presentation. I'm going to go ahead and get started on another one.